This is part 3 of how to make a universe. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, it's probably advisable to see those first. In those I showed how a solid piece of matter, when deformed, has vibrations that follow a thing called the wave equation, and that Maxwell used these wave equations to show how electricity and magnetism and light and everything like that worked. In lesser known works, other people have shown that you can in fact make matter using these same equations with standing waves that are spherically symmetrical. So the question is, how does that small matter get there? And I'm going to show that if you start with very large standing waves, it will produce other standing waves, other vibrations, which actually explains the entire structure of the universe. Although it's possible to explain all the things I'm saying in terms of electromagnetism, I find that a little bit more complicated, and I prefer to think of it as this big blob of stuff which has vibrations in it. I think most people can relate more easily to a bowl of jelly with a wobble in it than they can to the equations of Maxwell and electromagnetism. They're equivalent, but one is easier for us to understand. So imagine that we have a universe which is a big blob of stuff. It doesn't matter how big, and it doesn't matter the shape of it, but essentially we give it a bomb. Sometimes this has been known as the Big Bong theory, as an alternative to the Big Bang theory, which is bung. Alternatively, we call it the Harmonics Theory, and this is how it comes about. We imagine this blob of material with vibration in it. It may just have one initial vibration, which is the natural oscillation for a thing of that size. The oscillation is, in my opinion, although other people have a slightly different view, is what you get when you take an object and you do this sort of thing to it. That sort of vibration, which is a circular vibration to and fro this way, rather than just this sort of a vibration, but those may be present also. Now the thing about that sort of vibration is it tends to concentrate energy towards the center, and it means that the equations of physics, which are non-linear, especially important things start to happen then. To take it back to the bowl of jelly, if you get a bowl of jelly and you do this, for Americans that's jello, and you do this sort of a thing with it so that you're rotating it backwards and forwards, you can get a nice little wave going if you wobble it at the right speed. When you do that, when you find you get the right speed, even though you do it quite gently, you will find that something happens at the middle of the jelly. The wave that is concentrating into that point ruptures the jelly at that point because the energy is concentrated to that point and the jelly cannot handle it. In the real universe, I don't think there's any rupture that happens, but something else happens instead. As the wave gets nearer to the center, the non-linearity means that harmonics of the wave are made. Now, I mentioned before in another talk how this non-linearity can be understood. For example, when a wave comes near the seashore, the tops of the waves travel faster than the bottoms because of the non-linearity, and that means that they overtake them and the wave breaks. In the universe there's no other dimensions. I don't believe in these extra dimensions that people have. Three's enough. There's no extra dimensions for this energy to go into, so it has to leak out some way, and it will leak out on the axis. But it will also cause, it will go into these higher frequency waves, which are harmonics of the wave. These extra components of higher frequency that are made, these harmonics, they are also standing waves oscillating in place in the universe. And these other standing waves will then proceed to do the same, of make harmonics of themselves. They will also make new centers which divide the universe in half and third and quarter and other proportions. And so what we come to is the fundamental principle of the harmonics theory. The universe consists of a standing wave which develops harmonics of itself, and each of these does the same. From this one simple principle, I will show how a large number of features of the universe can be predicted and explained, which no one has ever even in many cases asked about before. This is because they have no answers. This will answer the whole structure of the universe, why it is that there are such large-scale things as galactic clusters, galaxies, stars, planets, why these particular scales that things form at, and so on down to atoms and subatomic particles. Why these and no others? Why there is more energy in these waves than there are in other waves? Firstly, the production of harmonics in any physical system is a well-known physics problem. It exists in musical instruments and in other physical systems, and what I show here is how, with increasing harmonic number, the relative power drops off. So we have high power in the first few harmonics, getting less and less as we go to high order. The harmonics theory does not say there has to be a particular way that this happens, other than it has to be proportional to some inverse power of the harmonic. So it might look like the left hand or the right hand diagram, dropping off rapidly or slowly. It doesn't matter. Up till there, this was well-known physics. This is what is unique about the harmonics theory. It says that each of these harmonics will now generate harmonics of their own. So whereas the original fundamental frequency generated all harmonics, the second harmonic will make multiples of itself, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and the third will make 6, 9, 12, and the fourth 8, 12, the fifth 10, the sixth 12. We see that the 12th harmonic gets produced in many ways, and some harmonics like the 11th and 13th get produced in only one. It is this unique pattern that the harmonics theory predicts that has not been investigated before. When we add up all the different ways that each harmonic can be produced, we get a graph like this. We can see that certain harmonic numbers like 12, 24, 36, 48, 72, 96 and various other large ones are produced in many more ways than other harmonics. Therefore we expect these frequencies to be much stronger in the universe. This pattern can be calculated using the computer to much larger numbers. However, that increasing numbers in the harmonics is being offset by this reducing power in the harmonics. So when we combine those two effects, we get this sort of a thing, which more horizontal one, showing the relative importance of different harmonics, and we can see the pattern that's developing in those. Another way to understand this diagram is to show the factorization of numbers and how the energy flows between harmonics. We see that the first harmonic loses more energy to the second, a little less to the third, and a little to the fourth, and so on, whereas the second is then losing it to the fourth, and this to the eighth, and so on. But gradually it is leaking across to 3 times those, and eventually the 24th harmonic is stronger than the 8th, and this leads to a unique pattern in these harmonics. So we see that the original harmonics, the strong ones, go 1, 2, 4 powers of 2, but then 12 and 24 and 48. Then eventually it takes over at 144 and 288 and so on. So there are many proportions of 2 between the strong harmonics and some proportions of 3. Later on, some proportions of the other prime numbers also appear. I have also marked here do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, because in fact these frequencies that are the strong ones are exactly the musical scale, the just intonation musical scale. It is a strange thing, because this is what originally led me embarking on this whole course of study, was that I had found 4 cycles in the New Zealand economy which had frequencies exactly in the proportion 4, 5, 6, 8, which is the major chord in music. And I began to look at nonlinear systems as a way to explain this. When I got the preceding calculation, I knew that I was on the right track, but it took me a while to realize that it was actually something that explained the entire structure of the universe. The preceding calculations up to the 100th harmonic is easy enough to do by hand. Using a computer we can calculate the harmonics much further. This shows on a log scale the harmonics from 1 to 1,000,000 and the relative power in them. The musical basis continues throughout, major scales, minor scales, and all types of music used by people. Shown here now, marked on it, some coloured curves show different families of cycles. The first family are all the powers of 2. The next family, the red one, are powers of 2 with 1 multiple of 3. Then the yellow one, powers of 2 with 2 multiples of 3. And the green one with 3 multiples of 3 and so on.